Shalom Bethel family. It is Thursday, time to review our Torah discussion from this past week here at Congregation Bethel. And last week in Shul, we read Parshat Teztaveh. And Teztaveh begins talking about the eternal light in the sanctuary. And you shall command the children of Israel, and they shall take to you pure olive oil crushed for lighting, L'ha'alot ner tamid, to kindle the lamps continually, or to raise up an eternal light. And I wanted to talk about this concept of ner tamid, of eternal light. Of course, many of us are familiar in the sanctuary of every synagogue over the ark. There is a ner tamid, an eternal light, inspired by this passage right here. And when I think about eternal light, I was thinking about how sometimes it feels like the world we're in right now is full of a lot of darkness and a lot of negativity, and it's hard to know what we're supposed to do and how to move forward in such difficult times. And I wanted to use this idea of the eternal light to maybe help us understand our role in all of that. So first, I want to mention a commentary of the Shnei Luchot HaBrit on this Parsha. When he talks about the eternal light, he says the Torah here indicates that we will never be without the eternal light, right? That's what it means in Ner Tamid, that this eternal light will always be with us, even though the temple may be in ruins due to our many sins. Says the Shnei Luchot HaBrit, right? The temple might be destroyed, but the eternal light, the Ner Tamid, will be with us. How can that be? The eternal light was in the temple. It was part of the trappings here in our Parsha of the tabernacle. He continues, it remains a duty for us to kindle a symbolic Ner Tamid in our synagogues, which are called miniature sanctuaries in the parlance of our sages, right? So our eternal light is the continuation of this eternal light that was in the temple. The light is to, and he goes on, he explains it. So the question is, what does this light that I want to explore today what does this light symbolize? And we talked about it during Shul, and people had different ideas. So some people said the light symbolizes God's ever-presence in our sanctuary or in our lives. And of course, the Ner Tamid is always right approximate to the ark, where the Torah is. So you can say that maybe God's presence we can sense through our Torah, that there's a linking between Torah and God. And as long as we have Torah in our lives, this Ner burns out, this light burns out into the world. But I want to actually use a different symbol for God. I want to say that the light in the sanctuary and the light in our sanctuaries, right? The light in the Beit HaMikdash and in the tabernacle, right up to light in our sanctuaries, are not symbolic of God, but they're symbolic of the Jewish people. That the Ner Tamid is us. And it's always right next to the Torah, or in the tabernacle, right next to the broken parts of the Ten Commandments, right? So those symbolize Torah as well in the original Golden Ark, because our connection to Torah is what helps us be a Ner Tamid, is what helps us bring light into the world. Now, this is an idea I started thinking about actually several weeks ago when we were reading the 10 plagues. The Or HaChaim, another commentator, when he's talking about the plague of darkness, so if you want to learn about light, maybe that's a good place to start. It says, what is this darkness? It says that it was dark for the Egyptians, but the Israelites had light. And the commentators tell us, even if they were in the homes of the Egyptians, what kind of darkness is that it could be dark for you and light for me? And we're standing in the same place. So the rabbis say we're not talking about a physical darkness. And Or HaChaim says another possible meaning of the light could be an answer to the question, where did this light emanate from, right? The light that the Israelites were seeing. The answer is that it was light originating in the Egyptians' homes. So I'm an Israelite. I walk into the Egyptians' homes, and sure enough, I see the light. It's not a light I brought with me. Actually, it was light in the Egyptians' homes all along. And he goes on. the absence of the word asher, so we're talking about the verse, is not especially significant as we have examples of Torah omits that word. The meaning of the verse is analogous to our sages telling us that the wicked envelop themselves in darkness, right? So the darkness that the Egyptians were experiencing was not a physical darkness, a darkness like we're used to, but some kind of metaphysical darkness that the wicked envelop themselves in. Accordingly, we may understand the darkness as being something subjective. The Egyptians who were evil experienced darkness, whereas the Jews who were good experienced light in the very places that the Egyptians experienced darkness. What an amazing idea, right? The Or HaChaim is saying this darkness was not physical darkness. This darkness was psychological, or maybe metaphysical, spiritual in some way. So you could say Or HaChaim, I think, is saying they've established a society based on slavery and genocide, that they have enveloped themselves in darkness. But I actually want to take it even a step further of what's going on for the Egyptians. I think the Egyptians have fallen so far, so fast as a society. Remember, just a couple of generations ago, they were on top of the world. Not only were they the most powerful civilization in the world, they were the wealthiest in the only thing that mattered during the famine, food. Right? Thanks to Joseph, all the nations of the world were coming to Egypt to beg for food. And they were doling it out, and here they were. Oh, aren't we the smartest, best civilization around? And here they are, 10 months into a year when they will experience 10 plagues, 11 months maybe, right? This is the 9th plague of darkness. Maybe the darkness they're experiencing isn't darkness that we experience with our eyes, but the kind of darkness you experience with your heart. Right? Egyptian society has become so corrupt. They feel so abandoned and so low that they're depressed. Right? They can't move forward. It says in the text, this darkness, the Egyptians, they couldn't even get up from their place. Right? The darkness that keeps you from getting up in your place is not absolute darkness even. If you're in your home, you can feel your way around. The darkness that keeps you from even getting up, that's depression. And the Egyptians are experiencing depression because they don't see a way forward. They don't see a future. On the other hand, the Israelites have light in those very places. Where does their light come from? For the first time in hundreds of years, they suddenly feel cared for. They suddenly see a future ahead, a future with this leader Moses, a future with this God who they haven't had a relationship with in a while, right? Hasn't been there answering their prayers, suddenly shows up on the scene and brings down the greatest empire in the world on their behalfs. Suddenly they see a future. They see a chance for freedom. They see an ability to go out and establish their own society under new values, better values. And so they experience light in the very place where the Egyptians experienced darkness. That, my friends, is the light that we still seek to be in the world. There's a famous quote from Isaiah, one that I'm sure every single person is familiar with. The Pasuk 42:6 starts, "And I formed you and I made for you a people's covenant for a light to the nations." Right? To be an or legoyim. What does it mean to be a light to the nations? Maimonides says, when our judges and advisors will expound the Torah and will find our nation ready to bring out to actuality those buds, then the light will go out to the entire nation, the nation that is so lofty for that wondrous leadership. In the inner natural feeling of compassion, of meekness, of acts of kindness that come out from our full understanding, that will surely be an or legoyim, a light to the nations. Right? So what is Maimonides saying in the Guide to the Perplexed? He's saying that the light of Torah is a light, the ethics, the values that we can carry into the world. And when we do, we will fulfill that goal of showing people a better way to live, better moral values, and not just by teaching, but by doing, Maimonides says, right? Feeling of compassion, of humility, but also acts of kindness that come out from that. That's our goal. That's how we bring our light into the world. That's how we become an eternal light. When we look at the Ner Tamid in the sanctuary, hovering above the Torah, that flame, that eternal flame bringing light into the world, that is supposed to be us in our connection to the values and the ethics and the morals and the behaviors that God gives us in the Torah, that when we carry them into the world, we indeed can be that Ner Tamid, that eternal light to the nations. And so when we look around at the world and we say, boy, it feels dark. Boy, it feels like I can't even get up because I'm so depressed about what I'm seeing everywhere. That, my friends, is our moment. That is the moment God made the Jewish people for. It is our role to say, yes, there may be darkness, but we will advocate for the light. We will do the things that will bring light into the world. We will take care of our neighbors. We will teach the values and the ethics of how people should treat each other. We will teach the sentiments, the ideas in the Torah, that we are all fundamentally the same, even if we've broken up into different nations and ethnicities and religions, that ultimately we all come from Adam HaRishon. We are all children of Adam and Eve. And because of that, there is something that we all share. We will teach it, we will live it, we will bring it. And so we can be, we will be, we are destined to be the light that we are so needing in the world right now. May we all find our spark, fan it into a flame, and share it with the world by coming together to learn Torah and to live Torah. Amen.